Hello, everybody. Going live for Tuesday Talks. Today we have an amazing person called Laura Rubin. She's an amazing joy coach, and we're gonna be speaking to her all about joy and what she does. She's pioneering the shift from surviving to thriving as a female leader. Let's see what Laura has to say all about it, and also find out why she does it. Let's see. Let's get Laura invited. Hello.
Hey there, how are you?
I am good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderfully, thank you.
Amazing. So thank you very much for coming on to Tuesday Talks. I've done a short introduction for you already, but you're the best person to do justice to it. So let us know who you are, what you do, and the biggest question to start this conversation would be, why do you do it?
Perfect. Well, I am Laura Rubin, reformed hustle bunny, master joy coach, lover of life, and I basically help women get off the hustle train and learn to live life by design, not by default. And one of the main reasons that I got into it, because I was doing exactly that. I had checked off all the boxes of college, career, marriage, children, home, car, all the things that society wants to tell you that, hey, you're successful. And I've just been running myself ragged on the hamster wheel. If I wasn't on the hamster wheel, I was on autopilot. And I got to the point where I realized that this was not the life I wanted to live. And so I decided to go on a journey and decide what was it that I wanted to do? How did I want to live my life? And in doing so, realized that there were other women, people in the same boat as I was. And now I just encourage them through my journey how to get off that hamster wheel.
Wow, that's such an amazing story and journey as well, in terms of you doing everything that society programs us to do and what we think is approved, because everything you are doing is because what approval you get from the outside, right? From your peers, family members, colleagues, and things like that. And in order to get that, you are on that hamster wheel, just on and on and on and on and on before you get the burnout. And amazing that you've realized, and like, okay, enough of that hamster wheel. I'm going to take a rest now and live life by design. And I love that live life by design, because I'm part of that design myself as well, because I do live by design as well, in terms of I do what is needed for myself to sustain myself, right? And yeah, sometimes you do get into you have a schedule, sometimes you have deadlines, and you have all that stuff. That's part of being life. But if you're living life by design, for me, it's being mapped out, as a blueprint. Anything you start has a blueprint. You build a house, it has a blueprint of how the foundation is going to look like, where the window's going to be, where the door's going to be, where the electrical outlets and switches and buttons, all this stuff, right? And that's what you need to do with your life as well, in terms of where do you want to be and how you're going to get there, what you want to take, what steps will be. It might not turn out to be perfect, in terms of not all the steps might be met. You might get obstacles, you might get challenges, and what you do with that, that counts. Glad to hear a little bit more about your journey in terms of, so how was it that when you realized and you had to pivot to start your journey, what was that realization?
So for me, I hit midlife. I lost my job and the company that I was working for closed, and I had a choice to make. Do I continue doing what I was doing, which I was good at, but it didn't necessarily light my soul up? Or do I go on the journey, and I call it the journey because it is a path that you have to take to determine who I was, what was important to me, and how was I going to live out the second half of my life on fire for me doing the things that I wanted to do instead of doing the things that maybe I was just good at. And so I decided to do the latter and took the journey. And I will say I am still on the journey. I think it's a lifelong journey. But honestly, the catalyst was losing my job and being in midlife. I felt like at that point in my life, I was like, I had so much time behind, that I gotten to this point. It's like, okay, I want to finish my life. I want to go in sliding, sliding sideways into the end. Like you've seen the meme or the saying that they say, I want to go in sliding sideways at the end. I wanted to look back and know that I had lived life by design, like we talked about. I needed to create. And so I went on the journey to create the blueprint. You talked about the blueprint. I didn't know what my blueprint was. It was like, if you asked me what my core values were, why I was doing things, what really was important to me, I had vague generalizations, but I really didn't know what they were. And so that was what really started the journey, was just really digging into, well, who was I? What made me tick?
Wow, that's amazing, to realize that what makes you tick, that realize that you want to go all in, sliding sideways. So it's an amazing realization, and a lot of our people out there are just going day in, day out, just plugging away, doing things aimlessly. The terminology comes along, headless chicken. You're out there just like headless chicken, right? The only reason is that because we all been programmed from a younger age to be that way. You've been taught to do certain things in a certain manner, in a certain way, which then stops you from thinking anything else, right? Because you're programmed to go out there and get a job after you finish, go out there, get a house once you get a job. And, you've been taught all these things. So you just think, yep, that's the way to do it. And by the time you realize, well, hang on a minute, there's more to life than just this, right? And that's when the realization, right? Okay, the wake up call, for example, that's what it is, right? So you now are restarting your life again, and it's as you said, it's a journey. So you've been on a journey, but you've been misled on that journey. You've been given a wrong direction. So you've been going in that wrong direction journey. You've been enjoying that journey. You became good at it, because I was good at my roles as well that I did, and I'm still good at what I do. But there's a realization of, right, there's a design that you can build. That design can also fit with work, jobs. You don't have to be just an entrepreneur. You don't need to leave your job now. You can still continue doing that, but you need to figure out exactly what you mentioned, core values. And what does it mean to be you at the end of the day, and how does that look like, right?
And that's exactly right. I love that you mentioned that you don't have to quit your job, because I have a lot of clients that are making good money, and the thought of having to quit their job because they feel like, oh, I have to quit because I'm not really happy in my job and I need to go work for myself, or whatever that is. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be that way. Really, what you can do is figure out what makes you happy, and then bring that person to the job, bring that perspective to your job, so that when you show up every day, you're in that mindset. And then when your perspective changes, your thoughts about your job change. Also, your job does not become the only thing in your life. Now, you're also looking at what makes you tick outside of your job. What are the things that you enjoy outside of work, so that you're not looking at your job or your career as the only means to happiness, the only means to an end. And that's what it's really all about. It's the mindset. It's the changing and really just stepping into who you are and bringing that person with you everywhere you go in all your situations.
I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that. And so in regards to your journey, and then how you lead your clients, so what's a typical journey for your clients? How they work with you? What does it look like?
The first thing that we do is we actually talk about the power of the pause, because we are so conditioned to the to-do list. Check it off, check it off, check it off. Next, next, next. We're not pausing long enough to really see what's going on in our life and what is, so for example, so the power of the pause comes in two things. The power of the pause can be meditation, journaling, things like that. So that's the sacred pause. But there's also the pause that's in action. So for example, how many times do you stop in the morning, make your cup of coffee, and actually smell the coffee? See the steam rising, feel the warmth in your cup. It's the pause of really paying attention to what is going on around you. We are so used to, like I said, jumping from thing to thing. We're not really experiencing the world. So it starts with just experiencing. And it could be 5 minutes a day that you start with. Oh, I'm paying attention to my coffee. And I'm not drinking my coffee in the car as I drive to work. I'm actually sitting down. I've given myself 5 minutes extra to sit. And I'm paying attention to, especially like when the weather's warmer, maybe I'm sitting outside and I'm paying attention to what's going on in nature around me. It's just learning how to pay attention to what is going on in the life around you. So you start peeling back all those have tos and those shoulds and start paying attention. That's the first thing. That really, because now you start becoming aware of where you're not really happy with what's going on, or you'd like more of this and less of that in your life because you're paying attention. That's the piece to begin with. And then from there, we start adding back. We start figuring out, what is it that we like? What is it at our job that we really like to do and we want to pay more attention to? What is it that we don't like? So as much as we want to know what we like, we also want to know what we don't like, so we know what to take out of our lives, what we don't want to invite more of into our lives. When we say yes, we want it to be a hell yes. When we say no, it's a hell no. And there's this great saying, it's either a hell yes or a hell no, because everything in between is hell. And if you think about that, that's so true. So you start really setting up the boundaries of what you want in your life and what you don't want in your life. So those are the first two places to start.
Wow, I really love that, the hell no and the hell yes one, and everything in between is hell, which is so true. And just paying attention to your surroundings, that you touched upon there, is quite amazing, because I do that a lot of times, and especially with the times that I'm working from home, because since people have been working from home, you tend to end up working a lot more because you are home, because your laptop's always on, you're there, you're sending emails out, you're picking up the phone call, you're just saying, yeah, because it's the home environment, you end up working a lot more than you would have done in an office environment, for example. So a lot at home, I take time out to just peek outside the window or just look up at the sky. I always say, I mean, how often do you look up at the sky?
Right?
If you ask someone, usually is 0 times. You'd never look up at the sky unless it's raining. Just
right.
look up that, wow, it's raining, and it's not even intentionally looking because it's just raining. Intentionally looking up at the sky, because nobody actually looks up. If you just look up there, you will see that how big the place is, or the formation of the cloud. Let's make it a little bit more smaller. Or what birds exist in your
Right.
area that are there, right? Just keep flying over. So I have done that, just look out my window and look up at the sky. And I've noticed that there are a variety of birds that are coming up to my garden at the same time, at the same ones. So I'm like, okay, so there are some regular ones that I never even knew existed, and they were coming to my garden. And that kind of clears your mind, and then you're ready to go back to work fresher and a bit more upbeat, rather than becoming, oh no, I have to continue, it's a long day. There's never a long day then, right? There is always a productive day, in my views. What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree. And I totally agree with you that when we work from home, and COVID brought a lot of us home, it is so difficult to close that office door. And even when you leave, it's so easy just to go back in, open that office door. So your practice of 5 minutes, leaving, stepping outside your house, changing the environment around you just gives us a new perspective and makes us realize, especially when you go outside in nature for that short amount of time, there is a much bigger world going on around us than what we see in our blinders and in front of our computer screen. And it really does, it's a refresher. It allows us just to refresh and rejuvenate and recalibrate. And really, it only takes 5 minutes and you're back at it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's amazing that, you know, that like tiny thing that we do and how it resets our mind. So it's all to do with the power of mindset and how we speak to ourselves and what we tell our mind, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. Um, I also think that's what is really super important is we have to make time for that. We have to, you know, as busy individuals, we're used to filling up our calendar. So we need to look at that calendar and block those spaces in that allows us spaciousness to sit and do nothing and relax and receive and reset. You know, a lot of times people think, oh, I'm not productive unless I'm going, unless I'm busy. And yet we are taking in all of this information and we can't process it if we don't stop long enough to recalibrate and let our brain process all of that information. And so we get some, that's why we get some of our best ideas in the shower because we're not thinking about anything else. So all of that data that we have brought into our mindset now is just sitting there and now it starts processing. And all of a sudden we get this next great idea. Spaciousness is so important and allowing it in our day is so important.
100%, 100%. And I love that, you know, in terms of what you said, that you get the best ideas in the shower just because that's when we're not thinking of anything else.
Yeah.
And the brain just, you know, like starts processing the information that's been received. Uh, and it's the thing, you know, in terms of when you're, even if you're at work and you're, you know, take a little walk to have that little break, right? And then come back inside. Just those tiny, and you also mentioned taking just time out for yourself. You know, I'm a big believer of scheduling. So, you know, whatever gets scheduled gets done because it's there and it's been time framed. It's been put given a time. To-do list is just list in my view anyway. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. If that works for people, amazing. Doesn't work for me because it's just a list of things and there's no time frame for it. And then you're just it causes a lot of anxiety for myself. I'm like, there's stuff on the list. I need to do it. But then because there's no time to it, I'm like, well, it can be done anytime. Let's see which one I can do it. So forth, right? So I just schedule stuff. I know it's that time, it's within that time, and this happens. And that goes for myself as well. So I've scheduled my walk time, you know, my TV time. I don't watch a lot of TV, but recently I started putting a TV time. So I'll just switch off. Everything switches off. I'm just watching TV for the sake of watching something else.
Right.
So the brain clears up and it picks up something else. And even if I want to just sit down, if it's a nice sunny day, back in the garden, there's a scheduled time for it. Like, okay, it's lunchtime, just sit outside, right? It'll be a lunchtime. So it's all scheduled. For some people, they might find it, oh, that's quite too much because why are you putting everything on a schedule? Well, I'm not looking at that way that it's a schedule for me. It's the hours throughout the day. I'm just saying what I will do at that hour of the day. And because I've written it down, particularly next to that hour, I will do it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You have figured out what works for you. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is redefine success, living life by design on our terms. What works for us? So for you, the to-do list doesn't work. For someone else, it might work. So how do you make that to-do list work for you and allow you this spaciousness and allow you to intentionally live and intentionally make your decisions? So now life is working for you. You are not working for life. And that's what's so important. And that's why each of us, like, I can offer suggestions and I can offer things that work for some of my clients and not for others, but ultimately it's our decision how to make it work. But what we're trying to do is live life by design. We get to choose what that looks like. get off that hamster wheel or autopilot, whatever we happen to be on, and start fitting in small things. That where we have the spaciousness, where we can have the intentionality. And one of the things is once we start seeing that we can be successful at the small steps, we start giving ourselves confidence. Now we have confidence. Hey, I can do this. This is working. This is not taking away from my day. I'm still just as productive. I'm still getting just as much done, if not more done. It's just we have to start off small. We see that it works, and then we keep building on those small steps. And before we know it, it becomes a way of life. It becomes a habit. We can't imagine not taking that 15-minute break at lunch, if that's all we have, to walk downstairs, out of the building to outside, or even walk to another cubicle and talk to our office mate, or whatever that looks like. Again, it's just the small steps, what works for you, and just start doing it. And you know what? We're going to relapse. It's going to be a journey. We're going to get busy and we're going to get back into what we're used to. But what happens is we become aware of it a lot quicker, and we can pivot and we can switch back and get back on track again.
I 100% agree with that, 100% in terms of what we need to figure out and how, what works for us. Because we've been given certain models that we've adapted because society told us to. We've been told, we've been, or been passed down from friends and family, and we're like, okay, this is it. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then and that's been with us for, let's say, for 20, 30 years, right? We've been doing
Sure.
that, and we've been following that. And now suddenly, right, we're like, okay, this is not working, right? And we now need to change a little bit, adapt to a new formula or a new way of doing it. For example, move from doing things to do to scheduling stuff.
Right.
So at the beginning, you might find it hard, and you will think, no, this is difficult, I can't do it. But there's always help out there. See, okay, I still want to schedule stuff, but maybe don't schedule the whole day. Schedule what's important to me to do it. Like meetings, for example, if there are important meetings, schedule them, and then make a habit of scheduling everything in terms of those important stuff that needs doing. Small bits that if you forget not to do it, you just don't beat yourself about it. It can be done the next day or as soon as you remember it. And that's how I took it in terms of, right, when I moved across to, right, I'm going to just start scheduling stuff. It was a bit difficult, I'm like, whoa, everything is on schedule. Yeah. I have to now I'm like chasing the time. So I was like, no, I am not chasing anything. I'm not chasing the time. I am just keeping an eye on it. So what is next that is on my agenda? What should I start up with? And according to that, I put that on time. So, get the hardest work done earlier if that's the kind of person you are. Because a lot of people, including myself, and it's been researched that you are able to do a lot of productive work earlier in the morning if you're a morning person.
Yep.
And then by the afternoon, you're starting, because you're having your lunch and everything, your body starts to relax. Then you can do mundane tasks, which you just have to look at the screens or just type or something like that, where you don't have to use a lot of mental power, right? And by the end of the time, you're finishing your day. That's when you can have your meetings. If you needed to just like buzz into a meeting where you don't have to talk a lot and just listen in and so forth, right? Just depends on how you want your day to be. But then you have to figure that out. You have to go through the trial and tribulations to see that. And a lot of people quite often give up at that point. Oh, no, that's too hard. I don't think it's working. I always come back and say, you've been doing something for 20, 30 years, for example, but you've only given this a week or 2 weeks or a month maximum. You need to give it at least 5 years to tell you that it's working or not, because you are now stopping something you've been doing for 30 years. Example, I love driving cars. So if I'm saying, if you're driving a car and now suddenly you had a flat tire and, you never changed the tire in your life. I never changed the tire in my life, so I can't do it. So I always call people up. So what you're going to do, you're in a rush and whoever's going to come and fix your tire is not going to be there for 2 hours. You need to be at a meeting, well, I don't know, maybe an hour or 10 minutes now. What you're going to do? Are you going to just say, give up? No, I can't do anything because I've got flat tire. or you're going to work your way to figure out how can I get to that meeting because it's important, right? So that's what you need to do, right? Put on your thinking cap and say, okay, how can I make this work? What's not working for me? Let's have a look. What's not working for me? Where am I going, or where am I overdoing, right?
Right. And I love, there's several things in what you said. First of all, this is not easy. It is not, it's going to take you out of your comfort zone. So you have to decide, what's the big picture? What is really the big vision of, do you want to continue to live your life on the hamster wheel, driven by external forces, external validation, whatever is on the outside, or are you at a place in your life that you really want to design your life and live it based on your terms? It is not going to be easy in the beginning, but that's why I really talk about small steps. The other thing is find someone to do this with you. Find someone that when you're like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest thing, I can't do this. Find someone that has your back, that will say, hey, remind you of what your big vision is, why you're doing it, maybe is on the same journey with you, that they're trying to make these changes so the two of you can do it together. I always say, don't do it alone. It's so much better when you do it in a group, or you do it with other people, with one other person, a coach, whatever that looks like. Do it with somebody else. Take one step. The other thing is you mentioned action breeds clarity. As you start taking these steps, you're going to learn, okay, that is not for me, but I'm going to do it a different way. That did not work. I don't like it. I've tried it several times, and it's not that I don't like it because it's out of my comfort zone. I don't like it because it really doesn't work for me. That's part of the fun process. You get to start figuring out really what does work for you and what doesn't. So you figured out, okay, that's not working. I'm going to readjust, and I'm going to try it a different way. You wouldn't have figured that out if you didn't take the first step and you didn't take the action. You can talk about it, you can read about it, but until you start actually doing something, you won't know what, like I said, action breeds clarity.
I love that. I love that. And I probably wanted to also add on to it in terms of, when we are also designing our life, it would also, any decisions you'll be taking from that day forward would be all informed decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when people, they say, oh, I haven't taken that leap when they're trying to do something new, or I haven't, I don't know if should I take this leap of faith? In my eyes, you shouldn't be taking any leap of faith, because if you've designed your life, you've got the blueprint, then there's no leap. There is not leap of faith.
Right.
You need to now have confidence in your plan of that it will work. If it doesn't work, I've never come across anything that's gone brilliantly at the first go. Even these iPhones that we are using now were not the first ones. They've been trialed and 100 times before the first one that came out to the consumers out there to use. So they trialed, they then tested. So that's what you have to do with your design as well. You need to create a prototype of all the items that you would love for it to work for you. And before you get that overnight success that everybody talks about, right? That overnight success is lots of prototypes, lots of missings, missteps, and
trial and error. Lots of trial and error.
Lots of them.
And that's what we talked about. The second step after the power of the pause was figuring out who you are and what matters to you. So that's part of the core values. That's part of, how do you want to live your life? How do you want to show up? What's important to you? And then once you have that figured out, the blueprint, now you create the roadmap. But now when you come across a decision, do I do this? Do I not? Okay, does it fall within your core values? Does it fall within your big vision? Is it a hell yes? Is it a hell no? Based on where you want to be, where you want to go. And like you said, as we develop and as the journey progresses, some of those end goals you never get to the end. It changes a little bit, but that's okay, because you've learned more about yourself, or you're in a different time of life. I mean, I know that where I was at 40 and I'm now 58, that's 18 years ago. I'm in a completely different place, but it's been getting better and better. I haven't, none of what I've gone through has been a waste. All of it has led me to this growth and to living life by design.
I love that. I love that. And what it reminds me of is also something that I always say is, that whatever you're doing today is creating the life that you want to live tomorrow, right? And if you want a successful tomorrow, you have to take that decision today. So whatever you want to happen, it's your decisions today. So it might happen straight away tomorrow. It might happen 5 years
Right.
time, but it will, whatever you are feeling now or going through is because of a decision or a turning that you've taken somewhere, sometime, and that's just the ripple effect of it, or whatever that trickle down was to that, right? It's never coincidences for, oh, this is going to happen. It's just happened because that's supposed to happen, right?
Right.
Unless you change that journey or you change the path of that journey, right? So I use examples of plane here as well. Like if the plane is set to go to from London to New York, and then suddenly there's turbulence and everything, and it's set off course. The pilot has to realize that it's going off course and has to come back a little bit. Otherwise, they might end up wherever that the plane ends up on by just losing that a tiny bit of concentration, right? Even if they lose inches on that plane in terms of being on misdirection,
Right.
few inches, and that can be a whole different destination now, right? And that goes for life as well. So, one day, if you just say, oh, I don't feel like doing this, and then, that was beneficial for your goal, but you just said, no, I don't see it. And then you didn't give it a try of like pivoting or thinking of like, how can I make it work? You've now end up on a completely different destination now just because of that decision.
Right.
What do you think with that?
Well, I believe each decision gets you either closer or farther away. And that's why it's so important when you're making the decision. Now, that is not to say we won't make wrong decisions. But again, that is an information. That's information. We made the wrong decision. Oh, great. That was not the right decision to make. Let's get back on course. Let's get back headed toward that destination where we wanted to go. Because none of us do life perfectly. We are going to make the wrong decisions. That's where grace comes in. And we're like, oh, yep, made that wrong decision. And we learn from it. Don't do it again.
Yeah, I love that. 100% agree. Yeah. So we are going to make, decisions which are not working for us. So that will be bad choices and so forth, right? But it's the realization of, right, am I still on the same journey? It's like realizing that you're lost when you're driving, right? I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I don't think I am. I don't see the similar turnings and everything. Once you realize that you need to reroute yourself on that sat nav, pretty much, right? So find your way back again, and you need to do that. But it all comes down to the person to realize. But a lot of the time, what I've noticed happens is they go back to their comfort zone and not take that, right? So if it's a case of like if I'm going to on a journey from my house to the beach, which will be, I don't know, following the sat nav, but then sat nav's not working, my comfort zone will be, today I won't go then because I do not know the way myself, even though I go there regularly, right? I go there regularly, but because I rely on the sat nav a lot, today I'm not going to go there because I don't want to get lost, right? So I'm like, yeah, not going there, not looking, and then leave the day, not fixing the sat nav, comes on, okay, another day that I'm supposed to then go, I'm not doing it. So what happens now is you're becoming complacent, on your comfort zone, right? Because you're not breaking out of it, right?
So your comfort zone, you can look at stepping out as being scary and, oh my gosh, something's going to happen. And that's what our bodies and our brains want to tell us. Oh my gosh, you're out of your comfort zone. This is really scary. Don't go there. Or you can look at it as, thanks. You can talk to it. Hey, I appreciate this, but I'm curious. I want to see where it leads me. I want to see what the adventure can be from it. Because it's, the fear is there to protect us, but we don't necessarily need that fear. So we need to acknowledge it, think it, and go, you know what? I'm going to be curious instead and see where this takes me. I'm going to learn from this. What's the opportunity?
Exactly. No, I love that, and that's the questions to ask when that fear comes along, right? Because it's designed there to protect us, and it's an amazing tool to have when we needed it. You know, when we were hunter or gatherers
Right.
about that time, right? And that's how we've survived this long. And yeah, it's still needed now and then, uh, but the movements have changed. We are not that much in threat outside a lot, right? Everything is okay. So you just need to acknowledge that, as you said, and let the feeling know, okay, yeah, that's fine, but I still need to check out. You've been doing that when we've been growing up, right? Since we've been kids, we've been doing this already. Hence we've been pushing the boundaries and all that stuff. Then suddenly when we come to adulthood, we're like, oh no, we cannot do this, right?
Right.
And we start stopping ourselves. So, and I always say we are our biggest competition ourselves, because we are the biggest stoppers and blockers for our own success.
So true.
If we at a certain age we start doing that to ourselves, we like, you know, if you look back, and when people say, oh, you know, I used to do this, I was XYZ, and you know, didn't care about anything, and all of a sudden, and suddenly now you're changed, different person,
Right.
right? In terms of where's that personality gone, where he was you know, taking on the world and defying gravity and all that
Right.
stuff, for example, right?
Right.
And you're like, okay, and I can't, simple step of maybe becoming an entrepreneur, oh no, it's scary, I don't think.
Right. And that's exactly right. And there is so much to be said for, where did we lose that curiosity? Where did all of a sudden, and it comes from, from when we were children and our parents would say, don't touch that, it's hot. Well, we didn't try it to realize it's hot. They knew, they told us, I get it, but we're not experimenting. All of a sudden everything is bad and scary and we've got to protect ourselves from it. And yet at some point in our life, we were just out there living and not caring. I liken that also to, when did we stop playing just to play? And that's one of the things that I also bring back to my clients, is because so many of us are so used to living behind the desk, or our play is now organized. In other words, we're winning, we're losing, there's rules. When was the last time that we played just to play, just for the experience? Kickball, tetherball, swinging on a swing, whatever that is, that we didn't care what the outcome is. How wonderful that we could go back to that way also, to bring back play and living life more from the eyes of a child and curiosity.
Yeah, I actually, that is so true, and I love that you just pointed that out, in terms of that, you know, because there's always that child within you, or that curiosity within you. We just stopped feeding it, in terms of we stopped entertaining it, just because we are grown up now,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So and we're like, well, what is grown up now? Is nothing. It's just, as my daughter says, you're becoming boring now.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, boring. I'm like, no, I'm trying to just eat my dinner. You know, it's like, no, you don't, you know, you can do this. You know, I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I used to do all this, isn't it? So I'm like, I look at my daughter and I'm like, yeah, I've been there, You know, you can relate at certain parts, and then you show her old photos, and then she just looks at me and she goes, I don't believe this is you. And I was
Yes.
like, yeah, you better believe it. You better believe it. Yeah.
Right.
You know, I had
But
funny hair and all that stuff.
yeah,
But yeah,
it's like, where did that go? And why have we decided that's wrong? Why have we decided that we can't incorporate that person into how we're living today? So that's part of the fun. How can we bring back that child, that love to play, that exuberance, that no fear? How can we bring that back into our life? And that's part of the journey as well.
yeah, yeah. I love that, and and it's all about that journey, right? And that realization of when that has, you know, when did you start to slow down, for example? When did you start to, you know, not realize that you've once got on a hamster wheel for a certain
Right.
event, and then never came off it,
Right.
right? So you know, the events happen in our life. Well, you know, it's part of the journey. So you're going through a journey. There's an event, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to take part in this event. You start taking part in the event. You're like, okay. now you're supposed to come off, right?
Right.
That's supposed to be just that bit. But then you maybe some people start enjoying that event. That's good, great, enjoy it for a part, and then they start getting tired, and that's when some people say it's too late. It's never too late to pivot anywhere.
No.
It's just that you might have to now do a little bit of extra work to catch up with what you've lost because you were on that hamster wheel, right?
Right. Right. And it is, I said it wasn't easy. It really is easy. It's simple, but not easy. It really is a matter of figuring out who you are and what's important to you. But then following through on that isn't always easy. And that's the journey. That's the goal. That's where we're trying to get to. But if you look at it as through the eyes of curiosity, what can I learn? What's the adventure? It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a bit like having that gym membership, right? You go in there all excited and everything, and then you start getting tired, and you're like, okay, I don't think I can carry up with this, and then you reduce your days, then you reduce your hours in the gym, and then suddenly you're just paying for that membership, and then you're actually not going at all, and then you're like, wow, when was the last time I actually went to the gym? I have this membership. Somebody's been getting paid for it,
Right.
you know, getting money out of my bank. And that's what life is, right? So you now are benefiting somebody else with your work that you're doing, you know, your time, everything that you're doing for what at the end of the day, right? Because
Right.
going to the gym is beneficial for yourself. You will have a healthy life, you will have long life, you know, depending on what you're doing, and so forth, you know, you will look nice and all that stuff, right? And come to real life here, you know, out of the gym now, you're working and everything, great, it's good, but are you benefiting yourself as well whilst you are at working? You know, you're
Right.
going to the job, that's great, you do that, there's a time for that job, you do that job. Once you now clocked off and you're out of that job, it's your time. What are you doing?
Right.
Are you doing anything that now benefits you in terms of, I don't know if you like scuba diving. Are you doing scuba diving? You know, if you like running, when was the last time you actually did some running? You know, things like that. I'm using
So
small
true.
examples.
Yeah, so true. So it's like what we talked about in the beginning. If when you clock out from work, what else do you have going on in your life? And so many of us realize, whoa, this is our whole life. And we don't know who we are outside of that. And that's what we get to determine as well. Who are we outside of our job? And so important because we are multifaceted. That is not the only piece of our life. And it should not, in my opinion, it should not define us and it should not define who we are.
No, I agree with that. 100% agree with that. So, in terms of your journey as an entrepreneur as well, uh, and how has that been an easy journey? What were the moments that you came across, or like, oh, I don't think it's working, when as an entrepreneur myself, I know that it's a lonely journey if you're doing it by yourself. There are lots of ups and downs. The downs are a bit longer than the ups sometimes. So how did you manage that situation when you were in?
So I consider myself a serial entrepreneur. I've done lots of things, and in my search, or even prior to when I decided that I went on the journey to live life by design, I was an entrepreneur. Then I would work in corporate, and then I'd go back to. So I was doing a lot of jumping around until I discovered that really what I like to do is I like to teach. And so prior to becoming a coach, I was a personal trainer. I thought, okay, that's my next thing to do that's completely different than working in corporate. So I went in and I started working as a personal trainer, which I loved my clients. 5 years, 6 years in, I realized, okay, I'm bored of this. But what I really liked about it was the teaching and the watching people change their lives. Because as a personal trainer, they weren't only changing physically. We had an hour that, I liken it to the bartender that stands behind the bar and listens to everybody's life stories. So I got to know my clients and listen to their life stories. So we solved their life issues as I was doing it. And I really loved that. So I realized that my next step was I wanted to become a coach, and I wanted to help. And for me, I really wanted to help women that were on the hamster wheel because I'm a super overachiever. I knew what that was like, and I was learning how to be successful on my terms and still be productive and not have to work so hard. The ups and downs are living or running your business by what everybody else says. You have to, running your life and your business by the shoulds and the have tos, and figuring out how do I run my business and my life how I want to and still be successful and still make it work for me. And like I said, that's the journey that I'm still on. And some days I've got it, and some days I'm like, what am I doing? What is happening? And on those days is where you kind of go back to the blueprint and go, how is this not fitting in the blueprint? Because if I'm not feeling good about this, or it's not working, I have to go back to the blueprint and determine where am I not in the blueprint? And I do that a lot.
So that would be a regular process, obviously, and it's amazing to hear that journey as well. So that's another light that you shed, of you pivoting from being a personal trainer, and realizing another thing is that you love teaching, and then from that teaching and helping pretty much, and you find joy in people successes, and you're seeing
Yes.
those life-changing moments, right? And that's what you're doing now currently, and you're predominantly female-based.
Yes.
That everybody that you're trying to help, okay. And so with that journey that you've on now, and you've been helping so many people, how are they able to connect to you? Where can they find you if they needed to reach out to you?
They can find me on my website, Life with Laura Marie. They can find me right here on Instagram, Life with Laura Marie. I'm also on LinkedIn, Laura Marie Rubin on LinkedIn. So reach out. I love to talk to women. I'll talk to, honestly, anyone that's on the journey, that's stuck, that doesn't know what the next step is, reach out. I'd love to talk to them, just kind of give them that support and that accountability that they need. And maybe just offer one bit of advice that will get them moving in the right direction.
Amazing. That is so wonderful. Yeah, no, so people should reach out to you, connect with whatever platform they prefer. And it's something that I also, noticed, and I was hearing, but I wanted to ask as well. So do you have a routine, a daily routine or ritual, some people like to call it? Is that something that you do that has to be done and not to be missed? Or if it's missed, that's no problem.
So here's how I feel. I love that you started with the word routine. You brought in the word ritual. I used to call it a routine. My idea behind the routine, though, what that brought up for me was the to-do list and the checking it off. And then when I didn't, oh my gosh, I didn't do my routine today. I feel really bad. So I changed the verbiage. I changed the wording for me to ritual, which felt a lot better, a lot more freeing. And I have about 5 things that fall within the ritual, which is meditation, journaling, yoga, working out, just spending quiet time that's my own. And those 5 things, I get up in the morning and I determine, what do I have time for today? What do I feel like doing? So it's not so much I have to do this and I have to do that and I've got to get all of these done or I'm not going to feel good. I have a list of 5 to 6 things, and I get up and I just tap into myself and what do I feel like today? Do I feel like, and usually working out's a non-negotiable, and I always feel good after I do it. But the rest, it's well, maybe my day doesn't fit, I can't fit that all in. So I can fit one of those things in and I feel good. I'm a morning person, so I do those things in the morning. My challenge is finding a time in the afternoon to reconnect to myself too. Or I hit the end of the day and it's wow, where did the day go? Really good from morning till about 6:30 when I start my day and I get into the to-dos and all of those kind of things of my business and personal life. But once the day hits, I have a hard time. And so my challenge for 2022 is to make that 15 minutes in the afternoon to reconnect to myself. But that's what I'm doing. That's what I do. And I think
What?
it's really important that however you want to term it, do not do what you can to not make it a to-do and something that you have to check off. Because then you feel guilty and shame that you didn't get it done. And that totally defeats the whole purpose of what you're trying to do.
No, love that, and amazing. Agree 100% in terms of do not make it into a to-do list. So yeah, routines are fine, rituals are fine. Whatever you connect with it, because at the end of the day, some of the vocabulary also helps us to move forward. And because it's amazing to if a lot of people say, oh yeah, you need to wake up and do meditation. Some people find it difficult
Right.
to just wake up and do meditation. Oh, wake up and do a right thought process of writing. It doesn't come naturally straight away, right? So you can try it. If you miss a day, fine, you missed a
Right.
day. Pick up the next day.
This is it's the exploration of figuring out what works for you. You get to do this. You get to do life how you want to do life. So just because I get up and I do X, Y, and Z, or you get up and your routine is this, or someone else does it in the afternoon and I do it in the morning, it doesn't matter. What matters is you're doing what works for you and makes you feel good and empowers you to live life by design and how you want to.
Exactly, 100%. And I would like to say thank you very much for your time and sharing so much wealth of knowledge for the viewers and listeners. This will be posted as a podcast in the times to come. Is that something you would like to say to all the listeners now before we wrap this up?
I think my final thing to say would be, don't wait. Start today, no matter what that looks like. Whatever, look at your life, decide what you want in it, and just make one step today and start taking one step after another. It's not too late. Get started today.
That is brilliant. That is so amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And you're doing such an amazing thing out there for helping all those, I would say, entrepreneur female bosses, right? So are burning themselves out, working in and out, and have a lot more to do than the counterparts have to be done, right? So the responsibilities are a little bit higher and more sometimes in certain cases, and helping them is amazing what you are doing there. So all the best with that, what you're
Thank
doing,
you.
and obviously your ritual. You obviously will come to a flourishing in terms of something that works for you 100%. For everybody else who's been listening to us today, if you found a moment of spark, whilst listening to either one of us, or you found, hey, that was the light bulb moment, that bit was inspiring, I didn't ever heard it this way. If you had that spark in your mind, then now it's our duty to share this with somebody else, because we should not keep that inspiration within us or keep it for ourselves, because we do not know who's woken up today or gone to bed thinking of a better day or tomorrow. And the spark moment that you had can just help them as well. And as you said, take that action. Do it today, and that would be something that can spark someone to just take that step that they need to take. We will be back next Tuesday for everybody else with another amazing entrepreneur and coach. And thank you very much again, Laura, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Had a great time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.